Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. Now let's get ready for a wild one. Today we sit down with Jang, founder of Atria, a platform that helps brands and agencies automate their Meta and TikTok ad workflows. But this isn't just another ad tech story. Ray takes us from existential dread to mountain peaks, literally, where somewhere above the clouds on the tallest summit of Southeast Asia, he had an epiphany that would change everything. We talk about his journey from a struggling gaming startup to building one of the most respected ad platforms on the market, ranked 15th out of 132 competitors in just 18 months. No co-founder, 3 months of runway, and a team willing to code on New Year's Eve. We get into failure, resilience, founder psychology, and the truth behind the startup mantra, accelerate or die. This is the kind of founder story you'll carry with you the next time you feel like giving up. Let's go. But first, some business. Founders, are you tired of yelling into the void on LinkedIn? Let me introduce you to the Founder Growth Cheat Code, Kitcaster. At Kitcaster, we book top founders like you on top podcasts in your industry so you can tell your story, grow your brand, and actually move the needle. These aren't random shows. We match you with hosts your buyers already trust. Our clients have raised hundreds of millions, sold companies, launched books, and built loyal communities, all by sharing their story in long-form podcast interviews. Done for you, strategic, and personal. Ready to be the voice of your category? Visit kitcaster.com and apply today. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. Okay, everyone loves to talk about vision, the pitch, the funding round, but you know what gets zero love? The actual product build. That magical, terrifying phase where nothing works, the docs are out of date, and you've asked your dev team, how's it going, for the 47th time today on Slack. That's where Code Story comes in. It's a podcast for startup founders who know that building the thing is the thing. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes deep with tech leaders who've been through it, shipping real products, surviving messy launches, and figuring out what actually works and when you're on the edge of chaos. If you're building now or ever plan to, you'll want these stories in your earballs. Search Code Story wherever you get your podcasts or visit codestory.co, because founders talk vision, but builders tell code stories. Do you have a nickname?
Some that I don't want the world to know.
Nice.
Yeah, I mainly just go by Ray. I've gone by like JJ. I'm just RJ. Yeah, just Ray.
I love it. Yeah, I mentioned because I grew up with a Ray, but he was always Ray or Little Ray.
No. Ray is what my high school friends used to like tease me. It's like, oh, Ray.
Ray. You got to be Ray. Nice. Welcome to the show, Ray. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's
100%. Yeah, really excited about this conversation. I did a bunch of research on you. You've had a storied career already. You have an incredible product. Start us with kind of an introduction to your product, what you do, and describe it like I was 5 years old.
Yeah, imagine I was speaking to a 5-year, not even a 5th grader. So Atria, we make it super simple for brands and agencies to automate their Meta and TikTok ad workflows. And the outcome that we provide is that by plugging in your ad accounts to our platform, we give you insights to know how to go and create winning ads. And we're doing that more end-to-end, day by day. So we already do that for your image ads, and soon we're doing that for your video ads as well.
Amazing. And you've come a long way really, really fast. You launched in 2022, is that correct?
No. So the company started in 2022, where we originally were a gaming company, a gaming platform, and we weren't growing fast enough as a company. So 2 years into it, so we decided to do a hard pivot. So Atria itself as a platform is about a year and a half old. The company history has been maybe around 4 years, But Atria, the platform itself, has just been around for a year and a half.
Unbelievable. And you've made incredible strides in that time. Traction, for whatever this is worth, has you ranked as the 15th in a pool of competitors of 132 in 18 months. Now, I want to talk about this pivot. One, kind of what was the intention going into Atria? What did you want to do? When did you know you needed to make a switch, and how did you do it?
Yeah, so I think just for a bit of quick context, I used to work at TikTok. I was a senior product manager there, and I really just loved my job there. I was just like being at the forefront of how innovation works. And I thought there was something very romantic about leaving TikTok to go follow my passions, right? And I think I made the classic first-time entrepreneur mistake where it's like, hey, I loved sports growing up. I'm gonna build something related to sports, or I love music, so I'm gonna do something related. So I did that with games. I was a big gamer growing up. It was like I played a lot of strategy game, and I really learned like team like development and working with others. And long story short, we were growing that gaming platform, a solution in search of a problem. Mm. And so I had this kind of aha moment where it was clear the future was looking bleak. Mm. The runway was coming down, and the existential dread got me to wake up at like 5 a.m. in the morning with my heart pounding, being like, what's going to be the future? And I had this like epiphany while climbing a mountain where my family, I called my parents. I was like, look, we're deeply struggling here. I just don't know what I'm going to do. I'm growing white hair. I'm too young for this. Like, what's going on? And I remember climbing. I didn't know where exactly in the journey of that, the hike. So I was hiking up Mount Kinabalu. Somewhere in that journey, it clicked where I was like, hey, we're not growing fast enough as a company. Why not build the growth machine that will help us never have to experience this level of pain? So I went from solution in like like a kind of a kiddish kind of like mind to search for a solution, right? And then it turned out really being like pain driven, right? I had this deep pain where I was like, hey, I woke up and wanted to be an entrepreneur, but actually the real problem that I had was not less so my product, but my go-to-market. So the core insight there was, what if it looked like at this point, Shopify had solved the offline to online problem, but no one had truly solved. Once I'm online, once I have a product, how do I get my voice and message out there? So that's really the vision behind Atria, to enable brands and agencies and entrepreneurs like myself to be able to put my advertising and my voice out there, my story essentially, in a effortless and in a effective way as possible.
Such an incredible story. It's very cinematic. So, I mean, you literally had a mountaintop experience. Do you think that the mountain influenced that decision in some way?
Yeah. So I think there's something about being in very like elevated environments where, first of all, like something being in nature just inspires you, mm-hmm. and just realize how many of your day-to-day problems are not real. Right. So, yeah. I think in the creative act, I think letting go, I almost even was at a point where I was really willing to let go of I think the key thing what I realized in that mountain is that I was so tied and like my grip was so strong on making my past idea work no matter what.
Yeah.
So completely blinded and saying, I must force my will into the world to make this happen. Whereas because the climb up was so challenging. Yeah. I had process just letting go, shaving off like, the ego, right? And then in that process, I was also letting go that idea had to be part of my identity.
Yeah.
In that realization. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really hard thing in the beginning, is that like, if the idea fails, it's like, I'm a failure. You take it really to heart, and that feeling becomes very heavy, and it sounds like you really experienced that a lot, and it's very, very common and I love the way you said it, like, creating a solution and trying to find a problem. A lot of folks do that. A lot of folks will spend years and lots of money, buried their head in the sand, not looking for a customer, because I think for most people, it's this creative process of like nurturing this thing and trying to grow it up. Now, you did raise some money. It looks like in the beginning you raised just shy of $1 million, right?
We raised 2.1. Yeah,
2.1. My mistake. So 2.1. So you have people looking over your shoulder, and they definitely have a problem. They're like, Ray, what's going on with our cash? Now, describe this moment. So you're walking up the mountain. It's starting to peel away. I love that description. And then you have this idea like, hey, I gotta go to market. I need to solve my own problems, because it's almost an empathetic position of like, if I'm feeling this, everybody's feeling this. So what once that idea kind of permeates, how did that feel?
Yeah, so I think once that a moment landed, I ran down the the mountain. It really had like when a moment like that happens, it's just it's almost like sometimes the truth is staring you right in front of your face, and you just can't. And so like I think there's something beautiful about going up to the mountain and going beyond the clouds and seeing really the bigger picture. And that's kind of what happened. I was able to shift, to your point, from me being the failure to the idea being the failure. So I could detach between that two and really be able to let it go. So once I let it go and I realized this new direction, once I shared it with the team, because you got to realize, my team was also struggling with me throughout this journey. And for me, what was so compelling, and I think the reason why I was able to push through even through the darkest days, is that we had this period where we had worked towards this idea for two years. And towards that, there was this 3-month period where we didn't know what we were going to do next. That's why I kind of had this like last hurrah being like, hey, let me go hike this challenging mountain to figure out what's next, right? And when I came back and I told the team, hey, this is going to be our new direction, it just clicked for everyone. Like everyone was like, hey, this makes sense. It's worth failing for in the pursuit of, because this is something that we all felt, and like you mentioned, we empathize with the problem firsthand. So we were in this we had about 3 months of runway left at that point. And at that point, it was kind of like a do or die kind of moment. And I think that existential dread really got us to work together. So we worked from October to January beta launch. No one, I still remember in Christmas, everyone was still working, and this was like optional. And then, and then even towards the day of the new year, right? Like that very last day, folks were still coding. When I was the repository, people were like shipping. And I think that it's less that I was the inspirational leader. I think I was more inspired by my team, right? That was really it's interesting. My team saved me. My team saved me to help me give enough faith to go into the next act.
Incredible. What's the name of this mountain?
It's called Mount Kinabalu. I believe it's the tallest mountain in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I need to go to that mountain. I feel like I'll come down with the 10 commandments or something.
Yeah, you will experience things because in that trek, it's like a 1.5 day trek. So you don't do it in a couple of hours. And they wake you up at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning to go see the sunrise, right? And so it's very cinematic,
cool.
You're there and it's just so tired. And the other thing of what happened on that on the way up is my dad's 60 plus, right? So and he had hit elevation sickness, more than halfway towards the top, and he was vomiting the night before that we go and see the sunrise. But he mustered the strength to go and be like, look, I'm not going to give up.
Nice.
And that was such an eye opener. That was the moment that I needed, kind of. In that moment, I almost feel like it was a spiritual intervention to be like, if my dad is vomiting at 60 and he's not giving up, how can my able young body give up at this moment, right? So there were so many forces at play to give me that push to get us to the next chapter.
It's incredible, and it's just you on top of the mountain, right? You don't have a co-founder.
Yeah. So I've always had the desire for a co-founder, but I've never found that person. So, I'm very much opposed to this idea that, hey, in order to get to an accelerator, I need to go find a co-founder, right? I think
Right.
I like to invert from like, what is the most likely reasons why we're going to fail? And it seems like the top three are you run out of money, right? You don't find product market fit, and you have a co-founder conflict, right? And
Right.
I think I really wanted to eliminate all these reasons that we could potentially die, right? So the third one has been eliminated. Like, yeah, I'm the only founder in this chain.
Which is great, but also it's lonely, you know? I mean, Gino Wickman talks about the best co-founder relationships is you have a visionary and you have an integrator. Do you feel like you wear both hats?
So I think I've been extremely fortunate in this journey where at every key juncture, I had a integrator.
Yeah.
When I was in my in the gaming journey, I had someone I would consider my right hand, right, who really integrated, was able to distill the vision into more the day to day, and I'm experiencing this also with this next act. So I've been fortunate enough, and I think the key advantage to not having a co-founder is you're able to build an early team of mini co-founders, such that what ended up happening is that so the four that I decided to build the core team around all act as partners in the company, where I call them as, hey, you're my partner. You're not my employee, or, I always say, hey, as a colleague or as a partner, what do you think about this? Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they don't, yeah. So it's like, in that sense, like we've reduced the key man risk that you get from a co-founder leaving. But at the same time, we've been more anti-fragile as a result of being able to allocate more of those shares to a co-founding team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So breakneck pace, working on a 3-month runway. How did you get your first customer?
Yeah. So at that point, so once the idea clicked, guess what I did? I went online and I was like, oh, like, how do I figure this out? Like, how do I actually go and speak to the customers to figure out if this is really a thing? So interestingly enough, at that very that very moment, I was about 24-hour ways from a Shop Talk conference happening in Barcelona.
Mm.
So I it's like, it's very like last minute. I'm like, hey team, I'm going to Barcelona tomorrow. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going. So I just book a one-way ticket to Barcelona. I arrived. I remember landing there, going around the booths, asking everyone, and it's like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm thinking about doing this new thing. These are, and getting a sea of rejections and no's, obviously, because they're there to build relationships with vendors, not some random, Asian guy walking up to them. And just doing that. And then interestingly enough, right after that, there was the Growth and Lead Conference in New York. So I was like, hey, team, I'm not coming back to Singapore. I'm going to New York. So I go to New York, and I also so every day it was like I would have to it's like in the like the Pursuit of Happiness kind of film. Like you show up, you look very dandy, you're like energetic, but like once you like open the door and go back home, you're like completely exhausted. I would be falling asleep at like 6 p.m. because I was like so drained from like trying to figure out what is the what is the demand for this. So I did a lot of that. And then I also did a lot of cold outreach on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And the way we found our first customer was we said, hey, look, in return of us building the software and you co-partnering with us, we will give you the software for free for the first year. Right?
Cool.
And so and interestingly enough, the moment we launched, because we were so closely tied to the feedback of the people we were speaking with, in the first week, revenue just came in. Like we didn't have to struggle for revenue. And that's when I knew we're onto something.
Yeah. So is the person who actually uses the tool, are we talking about a marketing director? Are we talking about a creative director? Like who ends up like actually using the tool?
So Marketing is there are many titles in marketing, and marketing is a complex department. There's a lot of people. There's the brand marketers. There's the performance marketers. So the folks that we really addressed are mainly three types. There is the performance marketer, right? So typically they own performance channels like Meta, Google, TikTok, right? And then they're called performance or growth marketers. Then we have folks that are called media buyers, the people who are, making, deciding how much to spend, right? In these channels. They tend to be more data centric, more technical, right? There's this new role called creative strategist, right? So effectively, because now the creative is the biggest lever in terms of your performance. So there are folks now who will extrapolate the insights and take the data, understand the data, and then generate great creatives out of it. And so there's this new kind of movement that is happening called the creative strategist.
I'm so sympathetic to these folks' jobs, creative strategists, performance marketers. What they have is an unbelievable task in front of them, which is they're expected to know every platform, know all the tools, make the best decisions, and then demonstrate hockey stick growth. Early on, what kind of feedback were you getting from these folks? Did they have a hesitancy to say oh, another platform, another dashboard I have to learn? What was important to them early on?
I think for them, it's exactly because they have to be able to show performance so quickly. They just really wanted to use a platform with great user interface, to be able to connect the dots quickly to know what to do next, right? So there was that one piece, and then the second piece was because the market is moving so quickly, and all these trends are hard to really. It's hard for you to catch every trend early on. A lot of people wanted capabilities to spy on what their competitors were doing.
Yeah.
So it was like to be able to solve for both needs in a really user-centric approach in terms of our design and in terms of our speed and capabilities that really gain the trust of the marketers very quickly. And so once we proved that, hey, when we launched the first act, that it was already so much better in terms of the user experience compared to the tool that they were using, the word of mouth started spreading very quickly.
Unbelievable. So early on, you have design partners. They're helping you kind of set expectations and kind of desire what they want in the app. You have revenue from day one, and you just start to build. Now, I love this quote you had on your LinkedIn. It said your startup mantra is accelerate or die. So when you're thinking about acceleration, what is demonstrating acceleration for you, performance wise?
You mean as a company or in the shoes of a customer?
Either. Obviously, the revenue going up is what we're all here for. But what are some of the other kind of performance indicators that, you're okay, we are accelerating because we want to escape death? What are the ones that you keep an eye on a daily basis?
I think that for me, it's the inputs are everything at a startup. How you determine your inputs will ultimately determine how your outputs can actually truly accelerate. If your inputs are wrong, it doesn't matter how quickly you ship, you're just gonna go towards the wrong direction, right?
Yeah.
So I think less about speed as a founder. Interestingly enough, I think it's sometimes more important to go very slowly to have clarity in terms of where you want to go, right? So that when you do put in the building blocks, those blocks that are stacked together naturally help to build this compound growth or acceleration that I was alluding to. So I think, for example, since Atria, we've never had an employee attrition, right? So we've never had someone leave the company.
Wow.
And in that sense, Every sort of knowledge sharing inside the company accelerates because everyone is so in tune with with a lot of the sort of sharings that I have in terms of vision and how to implement it, because that those learnings compound. In terms of the revenue side, yeah, every sort of big sort of meaningful release that we do in the company has helped to accelerate our revenue, but it often means that we don't get it right on the first act, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll usually do, at least I know, I've come to terms with knowing that, hey, we will usually not get it right on the first go, but by the third or fourth instance, we'll probably get there, right? And so I think we think about everything in terms of flywheels, right? If we have an initiative, what is the flywheel here, such that the more that we do this, there is a cumulative advantage that we build, right? Whether that it's in terms of the team, in terms of the product, in terms of the marketing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. So accelerate or die. Now, do you feel safe now? Do you feel like we've got
Not
some?
at all. Not at all.
Not at all.
I think startups are default dead. There is no reason why your startup needs to exist.
Yeah.
No one wakes up the next morning and says, "Hey Ray, I need your startup." Right? Most of our marketers will be able to go about their lives without Atria. That is the truth. So startups are default dead.
Yeah.
And every day they need to ship faster, in terms of they need to provide more value than the money that they are burning, or some sort of equation, such that they are inching more and more towards a need that is so entrenched, right? That is so important that they become less and less replaceable. And so I think if you were to even ask me this 5 years later, and in a beautiful world where Atria is thriving, I would still give you the same answer, because startups are that fragile, right?
Yeah.
They're fragile by nature. And so I think I live by the truth that, hey, startups are dead by default. You got to accelerate or die. And the only thing that you can control is your shipping velocity. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we really dedicate ourselves to, is to ensure that the inputs are right. And once we have clarity in terms of what needs to be shipped, we ship it as fast as possible.
Yeah. Personal question for you. I've never felt safe. I'm kind of interested in this word. And I think that's probably been kind of like a good inoculation to working in startups, taking big risks, because if you never had a feeling of safety, then you're like, yeah, well, I mean, this insecurity is my playground anyway. How about you? Have you ever felt safe?
I think I'm just looking up this quote. Yeah, so I think there's this beautiful line that more startups have died from indigestion than starvation.
What does that mean for you?
Meaning, in the sort of VC funded world, more companies have suffered from feeling too safe, with too much funding, with their bellies bloated, thinking, hey, we've made it. We can really rest on our laurels. Then companies in a position like ours, where we feel paranoid, the great book, only the paranoid survive. That paranoia gets you to crystallizing what really matters, right? And so there have been blips in times during this journey where momentarily I felt, hey, things are going really well. But anytime that happens, I almost feel even more unsafe.
Right? I know to stuff it down.
Yeah. It's I'm almost like this. It's too good to be true. Something bad is about to come. So in that way, I've entrenched in my mind. I'm embedded in my mind that, hey, we always need to operate from a standpoint that we might die tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. And it sounds like that's a real driver for you. And you're using a lot of other kind of techniques to help balance that out, because living in paranoia and anxiety and insecurity it can be exhausting, especially as a founder and especially as a solo founder, because you really rely on your creativity. Aside from, climbing mountains, what do you do to kind of ballast those kind of extremes?
I mean, first of all, I think I am yeah I think even though I might not feel like I'm coming from a place of safety, I'm not led by paranoia. I'm led by curiosity.
Yeah.
I see the world from a very curious lens. So, I think as a founder, they say it's like waking up and being punched like 10 times in the face, but still deciding to go and do it, right? And
Yeah.
I think the only way you don't burn out from that is to always have a curious mind, to always look at things from an open, curious standpoint. And I think in that sense, I find the journey so fulfilling, even
Yeah.
though I think I am not in my comfort zone, because I think and I think that's like part of the DNA or in the blood of entrepreneurs. It's like I think people associate safe and comfort with good or positive. But I actually, I think I found that most of the time, the best things that happen in my life have been on the other side of pain or the other side of going out of my comfort zone. So I think in that sense, I take it with less weight. I think I almost try and see all of these moments in a more neutral or learning kind of mindset, rather than trying to give it like valence of good or bad, right? I think in that sense that helps me, be able to thrive even when things get tough.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. Amazing. I know you're multilingual. You're bouncing all over planet Earth. How is kind of like multiculturalism and just integrating all these different places been impactful in the business?
Yeah, so my family is Korean, and then so I was born in Seoul in Korea, and then I grew up in Hong Kong, so south of China, and then roughly when I was 17, 18, I was in France for about two years, right? So I was doing a double degree program, so I was in France, so I was mostly surrounded by French people, and then I went to New York to finish the rest of my undergrad. And then I was in the Valley, and then shortly after, I lived in Singapore as well, right? So, I've kind of been all over the world. And I also went to a international high school. In my final 2 years, I was in a school of about 250 students, so like a junior and senior year, right? And in that 250 body, we had about 100 nationalities.
Wow.
So you can imagine in my dorm, I had someone from Finland, from Canada, from the UK, and right across the hall, I had someone from Ghana, from like Swaziland, from Denmark. It was I had, since a very young age, I've always been exposed to different cultures. So for me, difference, or I've always invited difference, right? So, and that in many ways has helped our company culture. I think one interesting feedback that I got recently from one of our colleagues is she was saying, hey, you're such an interesting boss, because in the past, I would only work with folks who only wanted to share their own opinion as being true. And if you did challenge it, you might be able to get away with it once or twice, but sometimes it would become political. But you're all kind of you're interesting in the sense is not only are you open to the challenges, you almost invite it. You dare me. You provoke me to get it out, right? So that I can also so Ray can hear the other side. And in that sense, I've always found that sometimes there are two ideas that feel seemingly opposite, and both can be true, right? And so I think in that sense, in my most recent travels, while building Atria, I was in 21 countries, right?
Wow.
And I was at Jordan at one point, in the Middle East. I was in South Africa for a friend's wedding. I was in Croatia, Berlin, and I think in that I was able to see that, hey, there are all these paradigms that people are living in that are very different from mine, but are all sound and valid in their own ways, right? And so I think that's how I really felt okay, as a company in terms of our culture, right, and in terms of the way we produce and innovate, we need to be able to have as many of these collision of ideas.
I love it. Do you feel like a nomad? Do you feel like a Singaporean? Do you feel like a New Yorker? Do you have a region that you call home?
I'm a global citizen of the internet.
Truly, man.
The internet is what binds, I feel like I've always felt like a little bit of an outsider. In Korea, I'm not Korean enough. In Hong Kong, I'm Hong Kong enough. In America, I'm not American enough. In Singapore, I was obviously not Singaporean. So it was such a, I've always had this outsider lens. So I think in that way, it's really helped in that entrepreneurial journey. I don't really have imposter syndrome, right? Because I've always had to be in new environments, right?
Yeah.
So by being in new environments all the time, you're habituated to ask that very stupid question, right? That you think you might be judged for. And I found that, hey, in the journey, most people just don't really care, right? As long as you ask it in a nice and kind way.
It's cool. You're like the startup Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah. I mean, I love Bourdain. Yeah, he's a character. Yeah, and for example, one of my favorite episodes of Bourdain was when he was in Beirut, Lebanon, and I've been there too, right? For example, and so, he's great.
Do you have tips of kind of acclimating yourself to new country?
I found that, so one thing I often always do when I go to a new country is I'll check out the local sauna, for example.
Yeah.
For me, that's how I kind of get to see where the locals go, right?
Cool.
And then I think the other thing as well is I kind of revolve my travels now, or entering a new country, less around sightseeing in terms of here are the top 10 places to go, but around neighborhoods, right?
Cool.
So in really getting to know a neighborhood, right, and slowly seeping in the environment, you get to see, hey, where are all the older people going to eat, right? That's probably the place that is not up on Google Maps, but is probably authentic, right?
Yeah.
And I think in that way, I think and what I love is I always try and start conversations with the waiters and the restaurant owners. I find that they often have the secret keys to really giving you the lens of what are the cool spots, because they're meeting customers all the time. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah.
Okay. First up, why is the TikTok algorithm so awesome?
Well, they know you better than your parents did. That's what.
Truly. Does the world look better in rose-colored glasses?
Yes, because all your red flags look like flags.
Oh, that's so funny. Um, you're a major influencer on LinkedIn. How, like, what does founder-led marketing or personal branding like mean for you or done for you?
No, I'm a small shop. I'm a small, fish in a big pond, and I think it's opened up a lot of uh, conversations with folks I never expected I could build a relationship with.
Cool. If you had to build a company that did $1 million in revenue in 12 months, what company would you build right now?
I would help build an analytics tool to see how brands would appear on GPT.
Mm. Analytics tool to see how brands appear on GPT.
How brands as customers are appearing in terms
Mhm.
of the GPT results.
Are you seeing a big uptick in Atria referrals from the LLMs?
More and more. I think what's interesting is I will hop on demo calls with very big companies,
Mhm.
like public companies. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how did you do about Atria?" And it's usually the bigger in scale, the more they're likely to have come from GPT.
I know the power and influence of GPT is fascinating, right? Because I don't know if you've ever talked to somebody else's GPT. It's totally different. So like it changes to match what you like. So like the referral from those is just a gold mine. I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, I've fallen in love with GPT.
I know. I know.
But put back Scarlett Johansson's voice on it, and I'm like,
I know. I can see that GPT-5's coming in August, and I'll probably like toggle back to 4.0 every now and again and just be like, hey, how are you doing?
yeah, yeah.
Cool. You sell Atria for $1 billion today. What are you doing Monday morning?
Um, whoa, sell Atria for $1 billion. What do I do on Monday morning? Oh, I don't know. I'll probably go. I'm already probably thinking about my next idea.
Yeah. Got to go back to that mountain.
Actually, yeah. And speaking of which, I think the first thing I would do is go, yeah, hike, a challenging mountain. I think I want to go to Dolomites next,
Cool.
in northern Italy. Yeah.
Love it. So cool. If you were entering college as a freshman, what would you study right now?
I would study anything that will help me really understand systems, right? Like systems thinking. So whether it's like a very interdisciplinary major, like at Stanford, they have something called symbolic systems, right? Where there's enough entry into computer science, but also helps you learn about like the nature of thinking about things. I think because the world is moving so quickly, I think it's less about being a great coder or being someone technical, but being the person with the greatest ideas, right?
Mm. In system studies would you think bring you the best ideas? Why is that?
No. So like at Stanford, they have this interdisciplinary major called symbolic systems, where it's a bit of economics, is a bit of computer science, a bit of psychology, human computer interaction, where it really makes you like more well-rounded in terms of the way you see things, right, and solve problems. Um, but I think because most colleges don't have that, I think as an alternative, I would probably study computer science. I think knowing how AI works, right, in terms of the fundamental level, is going to be a very important skill set.
100%. Cool. Is there a CEO or entrepreneur you admire or closely follow?
Yeah, so there is this. I recently listened to an episode from the podcast Acquired, right? And
Mhm.
I really admire Judith Faulkner. Like she built Epic Systems. So Epic Systems, um, I think besides one instance, has never lost a customer.
Wow.
And they've been around forever, right?
Yeah.
So that to me really thinks, shows to me a founder who really has a customer first approach in terms of the way she's built her platform, and that she's clearly never taken shortcuts in order to really build a valuable system that builds accumulative advantages for the customer as well. Yeah.
Amazing. GPT, make sure you link that in the show notes because I love acquired podcasts. It's like, I got 6 hours to invest in this business. Let's go.
Yeah.
Great.
and they're doing so well, and they haven't gone public because they don't need to. They've been so profitable. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Everywhere you've been, if you could live in any place in any historical era, where and when would that be? Anything but now and or the future?
Oh, it's funny. I asked this to GPT recently.
Nice.
We asked this question, and I said, based on everything you know about me, where would you place me? And they said that I would probably do well in Berlin, in the Weimar period in Berlin. I don't know how I feel about that. So it's like in the early 1900s. I was like, well, that's kind of,
well, that seems a little contentious.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, but something about there was this booming kind of subculture of artists that were very experimental, very expressive, that, that could really try things. And, there was a sense of feeling alive. I think if I could choose, I would have loved to be alive during the in 1994. Be a 30-year-old in 1994 when the tech boom was about to happen.
Yeah, totally. I love those conversations with the guys that have seen the whole thing. Had a great podcast interview with a gentleman that, he started his career in Silicon Valley in the mid 80s and still going, and so we talked about that of watching, the birth of personal computing to the internet, to the iPhone, to cloud computing, to where we have AI now. And I asked him, I was like, what's the most exciting, era of that whole journey? And he's like, right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I used to feel like I missed out on the greatest, invention of our time, in the internet. But, I feel like I'm just in the right place at the right time.
100%, man. I really feel that too. Berlin around there, I'm sure it wasn't all uniforms and marching, there was absinthe and stuff. There was probably cool.
Yeah. That's the crowd they were speaking about. It's not just definitely not the uniform folks. It was the underground artist culture.
Yeah, that's so funny. You get that response, and you're like, excuse me, tell me more, GPT. You're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right on. Ray, this has been an amazing conversation. What's the best place for people to connect with you online?
Yeah, so I think really I want listeners to know that you might hit a wall where it might give you a sense that you might want to give up, but keep pushing through. I think one thing to really learn from my story is that on the other side of that pain was all these blessings and events that truly blossomed, where the pain was just the breadcrumb to lead you to better fields. And so I think I do share tidbits of those stories on my LinkedIn, right? So you can follow me there. But otherwise, yeah, if you are thinking about growing your brand in this AI first era, then go to tryatria.com, tryatria.com to check out our platform. And we have a 7-day free trial.
100%. Fantastic. Ray, are we going to do the YouTube segment?
Not this moment. Yeah.
Come back to it. Okay. So if you're listening, know that we'll come back with some tips that Ray's got for founders, and we'll put that on YouTube. But otherwise, listeners, thanks for joining us. Ray, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. It was fun.
Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit aiforfounders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.